Hey guys, welcome to today's video where I'm going to help you guys achieve your reading goals and read more in 2024. First off, hello everyone, and I hope you guys have had a fabulous holiday season, however you've chosen to spend it, whether you've been working, spending time with family. I just hope it's been a restful period for you to rejuvenate and get ready for the year ahead. I personally spent an unseemly amount of time hiding away in a corner with a book, curled up and avoiding people, so really, it was perfect. Seeing as you've clicked onto this video, I'm kind of assuming that you guys are interested in trying to increase how much you're reading in 2024. Maybe last year was a particularly slow reading year, or maybe you actually did really well but you just want to be able to read more books or to utilize your time for the upcoming year. Whatever your reason for being here today, you're at the right place, but I do want to make a quick disclaimer that the tips and tricks I'm going to share with you in this video, these are just my methods that I have found have worked for me. That doesn't necessarily mean they are the only way to read more or the only way that's going to work. It's just what I found useful. If you guys get to the end of this video and you figured out something that maybe I haven't mentioned, drop it in the comments below and let's make this video a space for people to be able to really up their reading goals and to encourage all of us to achieve our reading goals for the year. The first thing I did when I first started to really try and up how much reading I was doing is to create a bit of a routine that encourages me to read. So for me, I absolutely love getting up 15 minutes earlier than I need to, and I sit downstairs with a cup of coffee and just read for 15 minutes every morning. And I know that that's not necessarily something that everyone can do depending on your lifestyle, but I do suggest if you can, trying to find even just 5-10 minutes a day to just sit yourself down in a corner and read a book, whether that's at the beginning of the day, end of the day, whatever it is. Doing that not only, first off, is fantastic for your mental wellness, which is incredibly important, it does also then just get you in the habit of reading. And we all know that habits are the key to a successful New Year's resolution or just goal in general. Building from that, my next tip is to not be too harsh on yourself. So almost on the flip side, if you don't read every day, don't beat yourself up over it, and don't set yourself unrealistic targets. For example, knowing how many books you want to read in a year is fantastic, but I don't personally recommend setting a monthly goal because life happens, and the more we try and interrupt life, the stronger it decides to come at us like a wrecking ball. There will be some months where you might struggle to pick up a single book, or you might just read half a book, and there will be other months where you devour books like there's no tomorrow, and both are okay. So by having a short-term goal, I sometimes feel like I put too much pressure on myself, and then I give up because I'm not reaching my monthly goal. Whereas actually, if I broke it down and looked at how much I'm reading overall, I'm probably above where my target is, but I can't always see that in those short-term goals. So for me, I try and avoid short-term goals like that. By not setting these short-term goals, you're going to reduce that pressure on you, which is just going to help you read more and make you feel more relaxed. And especially if you're like me and you're a mood reader, then that's really going to be helpful. On a similar vein, I also like to try and not focus too much on how much I'm reading in one go. So sort of like I was saying with those targets or whatever that people like to put in place, I try not to use those because I know the second I start doing that, I'm gonna really kick myself if I'm not making them. And by allowing myself to be okay with maybe just reading a page or reading for 2 minutes whilst I'm waiting for my coffee to be made or whatever it is, I'm finding that first off, I'm a lot more relaxed with reading, and second off, I'm actually reading more because I'm not thinking, oh god, I've only got 10 minutes, I can't read, I need an hour to read. I'm finding, oh great, I've got a couple of minutes spare, let's pick up my book and add a little bit more on, and I'm finding that overall I'm reading more. That being said, I do know, and I'm 100% this kind of person, that there are certain books where I just have to read in big chunks. I know the next Sarah J Maas book that comes out, the Crescent City book that's coming out at the end of the month, of course I'm going to read that in big chunks because that's how I want to read that specific book, and that's okay as well knowing that. But I would try where you can with the books that you're comfortable doing that with to just try and read in those shorter bursts when you've got those 3 minutes or a couple of minutes here and there, because it does add up, you'd be surprised. I also personally like to utilise and I'm probably gonna get so much hate for this, utilize using multiple formats. I don't know why people have such a gripe against using multiple formats. I really don't understand it. I work 6 days a week. I am constantly busy, constantly commuting, so I do need to find ways to incorporate that in, and I do use my Kindle. I use my Kindle to take to work because it's just easier. I do use my phone as well because sometimes I forget my Kindle, and what I absolutely love is the Kindle app on the phone connects to your Kindle. So if I'm reading a book, I can swap between my Kindle and my phone and read, and it like updates you and says, oh, do you want to skip to where you were last reading on your phone? And you're like, yeah. So I find that so useful. I finally jumped into the world of audiobooks. I always have struggled with audiobooks so much because my brain is like a hamster in a wheel. It is constantly going, constantly churning, never shut up. And I find that really difficult to listen to an audiobook because I suddenly realised that I've like zoned out for 20 minutes and I have no idea what's going on. But I have found a way around it. Listening to audiobooks in my car, surprisingly, just seems to work. I don't know what it is, but being stuck in the car, focusing only on the road, I'm finding that actually I can listen to and process audiobooks, and it's really weird, but I'm loving it. So when I commute to work and I drive to the train station, I'm listening to audiobooks, and I do actually have a separate book that I listen to on my audiobook as opposed to whatever I'm reading on Kindle or physical. I do actually tend to have 3 books going at one time. I have something that I'm listening to, something that I'm reading on my Kindle, and something that I'm reading in a physical format. And I know some people don't like to read multiple books in one go. I can be like that. I go through phases. So if you're one of those who doesn't like to do that, maybe look at alternating reading the same book but in multiple formats, because that might even then just speed up how quickly you go through these books, and then suddenly you're able to read a book in a much quicker time than maybe you would have if you stuck to only one format. The other reason why I also mentioned the phone, I'm a doom scroller. I spend like I used to spend the last 15-20 minutes of my night lying in bed with my phone doom scrolling, and that was just not helpful for anyone. It did not enrich my life in any way. It just was something to do and a habit I got into. So what I tried to do once I realised about the Kindle app is I've now replaced my doom scrolling with 15 or 5 minutes of reading just before I go to bed, and I still get my phone fix because I'm a phone addict. It is what it is at this point, like I am who I am, but it allows me to get my phone kick without necessarily doom scrolling. You never know, it might work for you. Also, I think the biggest one for me is reading to make me happy. Personally, I've never necessarily had the biggest issue with this, but I do know a lot of people struggle with feeling like they've been forced or expected to read certain books depending on trends. I didn't actually join the online book community until 2022, so I never really experienced huge amounts of this pressure to read certain books. I've become quite comfortable in my reading habits and who I am as a reader, but I do know that can be a lot of pressure to read popular books or to read books that you think you should read as opposed to the ones that you want to read, and honestly, try your best not to let that influence you. I find when I'm reading books that I want to read and I'm excited to read, I'm going to read them a lot quicker than a book that I don't like or I don't want to read. I'm feeling like I'm being forced to read. We read for ourselves, we don't read for anyone else. So to get caught up in this idea that we have to read for someone else is only going to hinder our own experience and our own joy that we should be getting from reading. Something you might also want to try that I particularly love, it's part of a reading pattern that I do, but also just I find it useful, is reading long series. I know long series aren't for everyone. For example, for me, I really struggle because of my dyslexia to get into a new author's reading pattern or like writing style, especially because I'm a big fantasy reader. You've got lore, you've got worlds, you've got story, everything that you have to sort of learn and develop in your mind, plus learning a new writing style. And for me, that first sort of half of a book can really be a slog just because I'm getting used to all these new things. So if I'm reading a long series, I only have to do that once. Once I'm in it, I can then keep on with someone's writing style and lore because you don't have to learn anything new in that sense of things. I find that a bit of a cheat, me being able to read multiple books a lot quicker. whereas when I'm reading singular books, it can take me a bit longer because I do just have to keep getting back into the books, if that makes sense. Let me know if that does make sense. A good example actually of a series where that can be super useful, if you guys are into YA fantasy, is the House of Night series, which actually I've got a few of them up here behind me. I loved these. The House of Night series are by PC and Kristen Cast, mother-daughter duo, which I just love that that's a thing. But anyway, it's a vampire teen book and it's got 8 books in the main series, and it's basically about people who are vampires and fledglings, and it's a bit of a teen romance. It really came out in that whole Twilight Morganville vampire series era, so it's very 20 teens teen YA vampire book, but I loved it as a kid and I still do sometimes reread it because it's a really nice comfort read. It's got 8 books in the main series. It's then got 4 novellas and a spin-off series that has 4 books in it. Now I'm not gonna lie, I've not read the novellas or the spin-off series and I do want to read them, but if you're looking at that alone, that gives you 16 books to read, like off the bat, that you can just plow through, because you've got that first book to get you into the swing of things, and you've got another 15 to just bulldoze through and to read without having to readjust your reading style or understand new laws and fantasy worlds, etc, etc. That for me is a really good way to ensure that I can kind of plow through a book. If you guys have any particularly long series as well, please drop them in the comments because I love a long series. Overall, I think realistically we can probably sum this up into 4 kind of key points. First off is try and read every day. Second off is don't be too harsh on yourself or set unrealistic or difficult goals. Third off, as best you can, try and utilize multiple sources and formats of reading. And finally, I think the most important, read for you. Enjoy what you're doing and enjoy the experience of reading, because that's why we read, because we love it and we love being transported into another world or another story. So live for that and you will find yourself reading so much more. At the end of the day, just don't forget that you are supposed to read to bring yourself joy, not to impress anyone or to do anything for other people. Reading is for you and it should be about what you love. And I think that's a really nice segue into my goals for the year. For me, for 2024, I've always wanted to say that I've read 100 books in a year, so I'm gonna try it. Like, as an adult, I have never read that much in a year. I'm sure probably at some point as a teen or a young kid I did, because I devoured books like they were air and I was starved of oxygen. So I'm sure at some point in my life I've probably read 100 books in a year, but that I know of, I have never done it. So I'm gonna try it. I am gonna count rereads because it's still reading a book. Obviously, I want to try and get as many of the 100 as I possibly can to be new books, but I'm gonna count rereads and we'll see how close we can get. One thing I do want to do is I want to try and make at least 10 of these 100 books from genres that I don't normally read. I want to try and push myself out of my comfort zone with my reading. I absolutely love my fantasy and I'm not going to stop reading it, but I'd like to just experience other genres and see what they're like and see whether maybe I'm missing out on something, maybe I'm not, maybe they've got no fairies in so I'm not interested, but I'd like to give it a go to see what all the fuss is in other genres and see whether I like anything there. But let me know in the comments what your goals are, what you're planning for 2024, and let's hold ourselves accountable together and spend this next year being our best reading year yet. Yeah, let's go and grow on this together. As always, if you have any specific content you would like to see throughout the year, please drop me a comment or send me a message on my other socials, which are linked in the description. And let's go on this magnificent journey together, guys. But until my next video, have a fabulous day and happy reading. Bye.